In today's fast paced, tech driven world, making the right technical decisions can often make or break a business. From startups trying to find their niche to well established enterprises looking to stay ahead of the curve, every organization faces unique challenges in technology. The technical advisors could be architects, experts, or any role within the technology organization or even any department. I can call them the unsung heroes in every organization, with every new idea shaping the world with technology. They are there and they are really making a difference in this world. They guide the organizations, and for CEOs and CTOs, the pressure to innovate and stay updated with the ever evolving tech world can be overwhelming. This is where the role of technical advisor, equipped with profound understanding of software engineering, cloud computing, and even fundamentals of business, that leads them to help to build MVP, to launching a new functionality, to an entirely building a new product, or maybe just solving some business problems, or launching a new e-commerce website, to a generative AI solution. They all becomes indispensable. They are the unsung heroes. Having worked closely with startups and established businesses, they offer a unique perspective. They don't just understand the challenges, they have lived them. And if I call them their mantra, a pragmatic approach that focuses on tangible results, driving real business performance improvements. And that's where today I will discuss with the technical advisor who is helping different startups and organizations navigate technical challenges. And I'm talking about one of my guest speaker for today's podcast episode.
Welcome to the OTech Talks podcast, where it's all about working on Oracle technologies. You will hear the latest Oracle tech information, and your host, Kashif Manzoor, brings together product overviews, how-tos, best practices, tips and tricks, and troubleshooting techniques.
Welcome to Open Tech Talks.tv. And today we are going to have an open talk with Brian Childress, and he's our guest speaker for today's show. And before I start explaining about what we're going to do, let's hear from Brian, and we can get to know about Brian, what he's doing, what he's up to, and what he can share his learning and his journey to the audiences. So if Brian, you can introduce yourself to the audiences, that will be really appreciated.
With a number of different interesting companies. I've had the opportunity to work in ed tech, fintech, in medical technology, a lot of diving into AI and ML, and some of the ways that we can leverage the sheer amounts of data to make better predictions and develop better software. So I've had the opportunity to work across a number of different verticals, and really, most of the work that I'm doing is to help teams to scale their software applications, to not only add more users, but also being able to add more developers and more features for their customers.
And this work you are doing in what capacity? Are you have your own agency or an IT company, or how you're reaching to these lot of companies?
I do, yeah. So I'm a fractional CTO. So I work kind of as a consultant coming in, and I come in as a partner to work with teams in varying degrees. So it may be a short, couple month stint to a much longer engagement where we are able to work together and really build out a team, build out a platform, and really help to create a great software product at the end of the day.
Okay. And how did you arrive to this situation? I mean, you must be doing something else. So, which leads you that you need to be a providing a services as a CTO to different organizations?
I started out as a software engineer,
Hmm.
worked my way up through the ranks. The last several years, I've been working as a software architect. So I have the opportunity to work across a number of different teams, internal into organizations, and also external as a fractional CTO. So a lot of the work that I'm doing is really helping teams to identify the challenges and the opportunities. And a lot of that comes from my experience of been in the industry for many years.
Okay. And while doing this one, do you charge them, or do you how you decided that okay, you're in this one exercise? Take an example that okay, you need to spend X number of hours, or maybe you're taking advisory role.
It really depends on what the team and the company needs at that particular time. So a lot of my engagements, I come in as a technical advisor. So I come in as an external advisory board, and being able
Hmm.
to help in day-to-day decision making, longer term strategy, and helping guide the team to where they ultimately want to be in order to grow and scale. Sometimes I do come in and am hands on keyboard, creating software, building that out, and scaling it. But typically, it's kind of somewhere in between an advisory and a hands on keyboard role.
Okay, so if we talk about nowadays with the software development, primarily the SaaS products,
Hmm.
which we are seeing, which this is my own view, that there are more industry focused small SaaS startups or SaaS products are coming. And if we compare this number to the large startup or large organizations in this space, and if we compare with a large type of organization and then the smaller coming, what I'm seeing it as, there is a more focused or industry flavor is there, that they are more successful when they are building something specific to one niche area, or maybe addressing one specific problem. Is it the same situation you are also going through, or is that something else you're observing it?
No, I would agree. I'm seeing a lot of the same kind of trends in the projects that I have an opportunity to work on, or just I am exposed to in my various interactions. I'm seeing a lot more SaaS that's created that's specific to a given industry or problem set within a specific industry. And I really like to see that instead of a large package that ultimately needs a large team and company to support it, and can be confusing to use, may be challenging to develop. And I think there's a lot more benefit to having a small, very focused SaaS package or platform. It's pretty easy to create a SaaS platform to serve 2,000 users and serve them really, really well, and create a company around that. And ultimately, those are a lot of the companies that I end up working with, are the ones that are creating for a smaller user base, because that's who needs their software, and they're able to really serve them well.
Okay, now let's have some journey.
All right.
I'm a software developer, and I have over 15 years of experience working in an enterprise space as a full-time employee, or maybe doing all the stuff starting from Java to Node.js and all that. Now, if I want to create some app which I'm focusing on maybe based on my observation or my day-to-day understanding with some certain industry or maybe certain area, and I want to start, okay, one day I think, oh yeah, I should be creating an app for them. and maybe I can build a SaaS app around that. And that's my dream. So how I should be taking up, or maybe now you can add it to it, that how usually you are observing it, and then how it should be taken up, and what are the challenges maybe, and then we can talk about as a scenarios and where someone can learn about it based on your experience.
I think this is an interesting challenge for us as technologists because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of I'm sure that it may be similar for you as it has been for me. Part of the reason that I was drawn to technology and have continued to stay in the industry for so long is it's really, really fun to explore new technologies, new frameworks, new architectural patterns, and be able to solve problems with those. And I think as technologists, we have maybe a tendency towards finding a solution and then searching for a problem. And I think when it comes down to building a SaaS package or a SaaS platform, or ultimately to create a business around it, unfortunately for technologists, we kind of have to go the other way around. And we really have to spend the time up front to identify the problem and our ideal customer before we spend time thinking about frameworks and architectures and that sort of thing. So that's where I work with a lot of individuals and teams to kind of bring that excitement back from just exploring new technologies and really trying to identify, okay, what is the business problem that we're trying to solve? And then we
Mm-hmm.
can figure out which technologies kind of fit best. So I really like to start with something extremely simple so that we can prove it works before we start to bring in any sort of like, how are we going to scale this particular application? I think, unfortunately, that we have to push that off pretty far in the development process.
Okay. Now let me bring a real scenario for you. My brother, what he does, he started he is doing his business in the baking industry, where he has a online e-commerce that where he sells these customized party cakes. And I'm a technology guy, and he's doing his business because I'm a full-time employee. So sometimes he asks me so many questions. So over the last couple of years, I'm trying to convince him to use these open source packages to manage this business.
Mm-hmm.
It's like from a customer management to order taking and inventory and delivery or a production. And I'm not successful somehow, because whatever package I'm telling him, okay, go to this one, do, and you can configure it and you can start using it. And then after using maybe 3-4 weeks, he comes back and then say, no, this is not meeting my requirement. This is not meeting my X. This package is not having X, or maybe another package is not having Y. And then I start, okay, if you want to develop it, okay, you start developing it. But then I thought maybe it's not your job, main business, to develop some software, rather than you focus on your baking the actual business. So in this such situation, now he's pushing that, okay, I should be having a customized package for myself which covers the baking industry. And this situation sometimes pushes me that there is a problem, there is industry, there is a problem identified. Why not I should go and explore the area and start building something or start doing something, rather than just sitting and telling him to just live with that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity, and narrowing down to baking as a niche might seem like, oh, well, there can't be enough of a demand for building a software package that's specific to bakeries of a certain size. And I think the counter to that is true. There's a lot of opportunity in those very niche areas because, baking, for example, and I remember talking to a founder, I don't know, several months ago about something similar to this, where there's very unique demands from that particular industry. The way that inventory is done is not like inventory for any other e-commerce platform, right? Because I need to measure certain ingredients at a much smaller scale, and the way that I purchase those ingredients, all of that is very different and unique to something like baking, where if it were a typical e-commerce type of
Right.
platform, I know that I have 10 units on the shelf or something like
Hmm.
that. I
True.
don't have to necessarily think about things like spoilage and
Right.
different scenarios. So yeah, I think that's an area that, because we are technologists and we can build things, we can
Hmm.
start to problem solve and find ways to
Hmm.
build something that is unique and does meet those unique needs. The thing that I've found most successful is that's when we have to go out and talk to people. We have to go out and talk to bakery owners and really
Hmm.
understand their business, the ways that they operate, the things that they need help with. Instead of us as technologists trying to assume the challenges that they have, we need to go out and actually ask them and find out from the customer what is it that they need or would be looking for, and then ultimately are willing to pay for, if it's a SaaS platform that we're looking to build.
All right. And how easy to build it?
I'm going to give the classic, it depends. There's a lot of really, really good platforms out there, the no code and low code
Hmm.
solutions.
Hmm.
There are a lot of great e-commerce platforms, for example, that can get us pretty far down the road in being able to build something that ultimately will work for what it is we're trying to do. It'll work
Right.
for our customers. It may not be ideal, it may not be the best solution,
Hmm.
but if it can help us to solve that problem, it's a great place to start, I think. And then from there, like you said, there's a ton of different SaaS platforms that are available. And really, the landscape of software these days is kind of just bringing all of those other SaaS platforms together. And the way that we transfer information is what ends up being the software that we then present to our customer. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can solve this problem. We can do it for fairly inexpensive outside of our development time. That certainly does have a cost, but things like hosting and the different SaaS platforms and that sort of thing, there's a lot of opportunity and flexibility there. And so it's become just incredibly easy to build some of these platforms. Unfortunately, the hardest part, I think, is not the technology. I think it's really going out and talking to people and understanding their problems. And then how can we use technology to help solve those?
So in this case, and you brought a point of low code or no code environments also. And now the technology guy is building it. How he can bridge a gap, which usually we are seeing it, that okay, he's not able to maybe market it, or maybe he's not able to reach to the right set of customers. So what are your some of the takeaways, key ingredients, or maybe your learning which can be shared to the audiences that can help them if someone is going a more of a tech focus and he just keep building and then what he should be doing it?
Yeah, I think it's a new skill set for us to learn. And I've had to do this as I've been building out my business. I've moonlit or freelanced for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years now.
Mhm.
At times I've held a full-time job as well as moonlighting. And there have been times where I was completely out on my own. And in that, I've had to learn how to sell myself, sell my own
Mhm.
services. And I think that's a skill that as technologists, we have to kind of push ourselves into learning. Building and creating and scaling, those are the things that we understand and we get excited by. It's the selling and the marketing that's can be challenging. So I look at it as just another skill that I need to acquire. It really does come down to the more people that you can talk to, the better focused you can be in who it is that you need to be talking to.
Mhm.
I've found you just have much more success when you're having conversations with just as many people as possible and really listening to the challenges that they have before we actually suggest any sort of solution. I think that's where we can really kind of trip ourselves up, is because as technologists, as software developers, our job is to solve
Right.
problems. Like, we're really, really good at that. And we have to, I think, restrain ourselves from wanting to solve the problem and really spend the time listening and understanding what the person on the other end is telling us.
Mm-hmm. All right. And if you want to share some interesting case where maybe more recently you are working on it, and you got a something which is more exciting, could be on AI or could be anything.
Yeah, I'm working on a couple different AI focused projects that are either rounding down or getting ramped up. And they're really, really interesting. Some of the ways that we're starting to leverage the power of machine learning and AI. The two that kind of come to mind are specifically in the healthcare space, and the
Mm-hmm.
ways that we're able to receive and process just huge amounts of data that can then help in determining certain medical diagnoses, being able to predict potential issues for certain um, groups in the future. So they may be folks of different ages or backgrounds or something along those lines. So I think that's a really, really interesting space. A lot of what I do is kind of spend time in making sure that the application architecture is built to kind of scale, but ultimately
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very simple when we get started. Because I've found that that's an area that really hurts a lot of teams in their progress, is when we bring too much complexity into our software too early. And especially around ML and AI, it's really easy to do that because there's just a lot of complexity to be able to support some of those systems. Yeah, I think definitely in medical is a big space that I'm seeing some really, really interesting improvements. And I think we're going to continue to see that over the next many years.
Okay. And maybe from a startup point of view, is there any weightage to a startup founder or maybe core team must be having a tech folks in it? Is there a weightage to it, or maybe a non-tech folks are also a mix of people should be there? Is there some tendency, some statistics you can?
I think there's a mix.
Okay.
There's a lot of non-technical founders that are really creating some really fantastic things. And
Mm-hmm.
they can be, if they don't have that technical background, they can find some really, really strong technical partners, whether it's a co-founder or just a technical advisor, someone that's kind of on their side to help them make, smart technical decisions, especially early on. I think that's really, really valuable. But even if someone doesn't have the technical background, they have a lot of knowledge. And so we're seeing subject matter experts in various different fields coming in and coming up with these great ideas. And then ultimately, they need to find somebody on the technology side to partner with to be able to build that out. That may be a freelancer. I've seen development agencies
Mm-hmm.
work well, but I think there really needs to be someone that kind of is spearheading the technology for the different startups. They just may or may not be, either a founding member or a co-founder for the startup.
All right. So maybe another important factor is having the teammates in the ecosystem, or maybe hiring a resources, or maybe having a freelancers. So what are the key learnings you have which can be shared and to the others? Because this is one of the more very important topic, because if I'm a tech and I try to do everything by myself, so when is the right time you need to engage someone? And then while hiring a teammate, so it's maybe two questions. I think when you're hiring, what are the traits we should be targeting it?
So Again, I love to say it depends. It comes down to the problem that's being solved as
Mm-hmm.
what my recommended approach to hiring is. So if it's, let's say, a very AI or ML focused
Mm-hmm.
solution that we're building, then I want to find a tech partner who has deep expertise in those particular areas. So I'm
Okay.
going to find that subject matter expert. And then from there, I'm going to augment their expertise with strong team members. Now, if we're
Mm-hmm.
building something that's a bit maybe more generic, it might be an application that's serving a specific niche, but it may not have a strong focus in any particular technology set. Then I'll look for really experienced senior level engineers that are really able to kind of float across the tech stack. Because early on, we only have the opportunity to hire a handful of people. And so those folks need to be able to support the technology up and down the stack. I think there's a lot of really, really strong and talented folks that we're finding. And, with the continued progression around remote work and a lot of the tools that have become available in the last 5 or 6 years, it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot easier for us to find and build teams that are more distributed and be able to collaborate effectively with them. It's certainly still challenging, but there's a lot more opportunity to find not only those subject matter experts, but also really strong generalist engineers as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how you are being approached by different partners or startups? I mean, how you are being known to people? Is it through references or you're approaching yourself? So how you get to know that, yeah, this is the new area which I need to work, or maybe.
So as far as how I'm being approached, it's a bit of all of the above, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
very active on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I am active in blogging and putting out content as far as that goes. Uh, Podcasts just like this
Mm-hmm.
I found is to be a great way to continue to contribute to the overall ecosystem. And as far as the way that I personally grow, I found that being on projects in new industries or with new technologies is very much forces me to learn. So that's a great way for me to learn and grow. And then, I'm very active in the ways that I consume content. There are
Mm-hmm.
a number of different newsletters that I subscribe to, or podcasts, or video streams that I'll watch, just as a way to kind of keep up to date with what's going on in the industry, so that I can continue to progress and learn. Because that's a big thing for me, is that continued learning, and a big reason that I've continued to stay in the technology industry is in order to be successful, you're forced to continue to learn almost daily. Just the
Right.
pace at which things change is still mind-boggling.
Right. And what do you see in coming next 2 to 3 years about yourself? Okay, you will continue the same way, or you think you're gonna build something by yourself and then take it up?
I think for me, the next year and a half is going to be to continue to support organizations in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to continue to grow both my practice and the folks that I work with in my practice. So that may be developers or development teams. I think there's a lot of opportunity to support organizations. Typically, where I come into a project is after the MVP has already been built, and they're looking to either fix maybe some problems that they're experiencing, or to scale. And those are areas
Mm-hmm.
that I really start to focus in on. And so I think there's a ton of opportunity there. After a few years, I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but I'm very
Mm-hmm.
excited to see the progress that we're making.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you usually get involved after the MVP. There is something they already built it, and now they're looking after something more. The way you said, either scaling or maybe product repositioning, or what are the common areas you're being targeted?
So a lot of times, unfortunately, I'm coming into projects where, maybe they hired a freelancer or a development agency and something was built and
Mm-hmm.
it's working, but it's not working well, right? They may have
Mm-hmm.
reliability issues where the site is just unreliable, it's constantly going down, or there's a lot of bugs and errors, or the product has become so popular that they're having challenges with scaling.
Mm-hmm.
They need to find ways to be able to support more users. They need to find ways to be able to add more features. Their customers
Right.
are asking for more functionality. And potentially they need to add more developers to
Mm-hmm.
build all that. And those are areas that I tend to focus and kind of specialize in, is how can we scale in those three particular ways.
All right, great. And thank you so much for joining. And if maybe someone want to reach out to you, or what are the social channels or your website, maybe if you can want to share it.
I would say I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, and that's going to be a great
Mm-hmm.
place to connect with me. Send me a connection request or a message there. I'm happy to connect and meet with anyone. From there, there's links to my website and other resources as well. So yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with anyone.
All right. So maybe a concluding remarks for our builders, tech folks, where they should be heading, what they should be focusing on it, if someone want to.
Yeah, so I think I like to explore new technologies. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, if there's a new technology, a language, a framework that's coming out and really coming onto the scene, I encourage any of my technology counterparts to go and explore it. Download the software, follow a getting started guide, just to get a rough idea of what
Mm-hmm.
that ecosystem looks like. You might not be, ever using that particular software. You may never use it in production, but I think it's really interesting to kind of keep a close eye on what's going on. And it's always fun, I've found, to explore some of those technologies in a hands-on way. So just checking it out, see what's going on. I think data is going to continue to be extremely important. So any focus around data and ways that we can manage and move and understand data better, it's always going to serve you, I think, as far as the way that technology and software is progressing. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us with this wonderful session. And I really appreciate even myself the way I shared my personal story to you. That being a tech guy, I always thought that okay, let's go ahead and start building something. I really appreciate for sharing the knowledge and the feel and the actual experience which you're working with the different startups and the different folks. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Rashid, thank you for the opportunity.
At otechtalks.tv, it's a turf to share ideas, insights, and innovations.